Go ahead, Miguel.
Lord, thank you, Lord, right now for allowing us to get together, Lord, for this study, Lord. I just pray, Lord, that you go before us, Lord, or before they are going to be teaching us what's going for today, Lord. And we pray for those that are going to be watching us tonight as well, Lord, that you minister to them, Lord, and that you speak to us through your word, Lord. And we thank you, we praise you, Lord, in your praise, Son, Jesus Christ, and we pray, Lord.
Leave it alone.
Thank you, sir.
You inside, this and leave it alone.
Okay, hold on. We will bring up the 5 plus Christ plus. Here we go. We'll move this over this way. There we go. Okay.
Proverbs chapter 27, verse 17. As iron sharpens iron, so a man sharpens his countenance of his friends. Proverbs chapter 27, verse 17.
Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Psalm 23.
The Lord's Supper verses. Matthew chapter 26, verses 26 and 27. Mark chapter 14, verses 22, 23, and 24. Luke chapter 22, verses 19 and 20. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 24 and 25, the Lord's Supper's verses.
Ephesians chapter 6, verses 10 to 18, the whole armor of God. Verse 10. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Verse 11. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. Verse 12. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authority, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Verse 13. Therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground, and after you have done everything, to stand. Verse 14. Stand firm then, with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, with the breastplate of righteousness in place. Verse 15. And with your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. Verse 16. In addition to all this, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Verse 17. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Verse 18. And pray in the Spirit on all occasions with all kinds of prayers and requests. With this in mind, be alert and always keep on praying for all the saints. Ephesians chapter 6, verses 10 to 18, the whole armor of God.
All right, books of Bible, Old Testament, books of the law, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, books of history, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, books of poetry and wisdom, Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Songs. Books of the major prophets, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel. Books of the minor prophets, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. New Testament, the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. The history of the early church is Acts. The epistles or letters of Paul, Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, 1st and 2nd Timothy, Titus, and Philemon. The general epistles or letters, Hebrews, James, 1st and 2nd Peter, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, Jude, and Revelation. Your mic, Jim.
All right, thank you, bro. Psalm chapter 5, verses 1, 2, and 3. We're going to sing this together. Give ear to my words, O Lord. Consider my meditation. Hearken unto the voice of my cry, my King and my God. For unto thee will I pray. My voice shalt thou hear in the morning. O Lord, in the morning will I direct my prayer unto thee, and will look up. One more time, a little louder so the neighbors can hear. Psalm 5, verses 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Give ear to my words, O Lord. Consider my meditation. Hearken unto the voice of my cry, my King and my God. For unto thee will I pray. My voice shalt thou hear in the morning. O Lord, in the morning will I direct my prayer unto thee, and will look up. Okay. Reading of the word. Move the screen over there. Okay, here we go. John, microphone.
Isaiah 25, verse 1. O Lord, thou art my God. I will exalt thee. I will praise thy name, for thou hast done wonderful things. Thy counsels of old are faithfulness and truth. For thou hast made a city of a heap, and of a defenced city a ruin, a palace of strangers. To be no city, it shall never be built. Therefore shall the strong people glorify thee. The city of the terrible nations shall fear thee. For thou hast been a strength to the poor, a strength to the needy in his distress, a refuge from the storm, a shadow from heat. That when the blast of the terrible ones is a storm against the wall, thou shalt bring down the noise of strangers as the heat in a dry place, even the heat with the shadow of a cloud. The branch of the terrible ones shall be brought low.
Mr.
Isaiah.
Nielsen, I'm sorry,
Isaiah.
Mr. Nielsen.
Yes.
We're only supposed to be on chapter 24, sir.
Oh, my 25? My bad. Here we go, going back one. Thank you, I appreciate that. Previous chapter. There we go. Oh, one more. Here we go, 24. Again.
Behold, the Lord maketh the earth empty, and maketh it waste, and turneth it upside down, and scattereth abroad the inhabitants thereof. And it shall be as with the people, so with the priest, as with the servant, so with his master, as with the maid, so with her mistress, as with the buyer, so with the seller, as with the lender, so with the borrower, as with the taker of usury, so with the giver of usury to him. The land shall be utterly empty and utterly spoiled, for the Lord hath spoken his word. The earth mourneth and fadeth away. The world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant.
Isaiah chapter 24, verses 6. Therefore, hate the curse devour the earth, and they shall dwell therein desolate. Therefore, the inhabitants of the earth are burnt, and few men left. The new wine, the wine lavished, all the merry-hearted do sight. The myrrh of the tabrets ceased, the noise of them, and rejoiced in the joys of the harp ceased. They shall not drink wine and song. Strong drink shall be bitter to them that they drink it. The city of the confusion is broken down. Every house is shut up, and that no man may come in.
It's Isaiah chapter 21, verse 11. There's a cry for a wine in the streets. All joy is darkened. The mirth of the land is gone. Verse 12. In the city, desolation is left, and the gate is stricken with destruction. Verse 13. When it shall be thus in the midst of the land among the people, it shall be like the shaking of an olive tree, like the cleaning of grapes when the vintage is done. Verse 14. They shall lift up their voice, they shall sing for the majesty of the Lord. They shall cry aloud from the sea. Verse 15. Therefore, glorify the Lord in the dawning light. The name of the Lord God of Israel is the coastlands of the sea.
Verse 16. From the uttermost part of the earth have we heard songs, even glory to the righteous. But I said, mine leanness, woe to me. The treacherous dealers have dealt treacherously, yea, the treacherous dealers have dealt very treacherously. Verse 17, fear and the pit and the snare are upon thee, O inhabitation of the earth. Verse 18, and it shall come to pass that he who fleeth from the noise of the fear shall fall into the pit, and he that cometh up out of the midst of the pit shall be taken in the snare. For the windows form on high are open, and the foundations of the earth do shake. Verse 19, the earth is utterly broken down. The earth is clean dissolved. The earth is moved exceedingly. Verse 20, the earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage, and the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again. Verse 21, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall punish the host of the high ones that are on high, and the kings of the earth upon the earth. Verse 22, and they shall be gathered together as prisoners are gathered in the pit, and shall be shut up in the prison, and after many days shall be visited. Verse 23, when the moon, then the moon shall be confounded, and the sun ashamed, when the Lord of hosts shall reign in Mount Zion, and in Jerusalem, and before his ancients gloriously. Amen. Okay, muting all again. And go ahead and turn your mic on, Dave, and you're good to go, my brother.
Yeah. So before we get started, I'm gonna just a quick prayer that the Lord gives us the words we need to hear for those that are sitting here now, right now, and for those that may tune in later and watch it later. But just say, Lord, go before us today. Give us insights into what we're going to be teaching and learning. We thank you in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Well, I suppose as some of you get to know me better, I might be called a wordsmith because I have a tendency to latch onto a word and hunt it down to find out what it means in context. So bear with me a little bit because we're dealing now with the judgment of the whole earth. We've got Babylon, we've got Tyre, we've got Egypt, we've got all these places local to where Isaiah was. But now we're talking about that day. This is that day, the Great Tribulation period, or the time of Jacob's trouble, however you want to remember it. But this is the judgment of the whole earth. Not to say that it's more important than any other chapter. It is just a chapter in Isaiah where he is seeing things that are horrific. So obviously I'm going to start with verse 1, and we're going to hang there for a little bit, so please bear with me, because it definitely opens up a kettle of worms. I read out of the New American Standard, just so you know. Sometimes I'll reference King James, but this is New American Standard, and it says, "Behold, the Lord lays the earth waste, devastates it, twists its surface, and scatters its inhabitants." So the word here that, for whatever reason, got stuck in my head is the word devastate. We've already read in Isaiah chapter 10, verse 3, that says, "Now what will you do in the day of punishment and in the devastation which will come from afar? To whom will you flee for help, and where will you leave your wealth?" And we're going to get to Isaiah 51, verse 19, that says, "These two things have befallen you. Who will mourn for you? The devastation and destruction," which are now two different words, "famine and sword, how shall I comfort you?" Isaiah 59 and verse 7 says, "Their feet run to evil, and they hasten to shed innocent blood. Their thoughts are thoughts of iniquity, devastation, and destruction." Notice two different words again are in their highways. And finally, in Isaiah chapter 60, verse 18, it says, "Violence will not be heard again in your land, nor devastation or destruction within your borders. But you will call your walls salvation and your gates praise." So here was my dilemma. When I think devastation, I'm thinking destruction, right? If you're going to devastate an area or whatever, you're destroying it. But when I see the word devastation and destruction, I'm going, wait a minute. So you remember the flood story. Genesis chapter 9, verse 11 says, "I establish my covenant with you, and all flesh shall never again be eliminated by waters of flood, nor shall there again be a flood to destroy the earth." Right? I go, okay. So upon research, I came across a website called the Targum Onkelos, Genesis Deconstructed. So if you want to look that up and research this later, feel free. Because the word devastation took me to Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, and we've all heard of a thing called the gap theory, right? The gap theory. What happened? Because in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And then in verse 2, it says, "And the earth was formless and void." Correct? Morning, Thomas. Now, the original language here was Aramaic. So I have this Aramaic translation into Hebrew, and this is how it actually reads. "And the earth was devastated and empty." Well, when I hear that the earth was devastated, I'm wondering, what was it before the devastation? If it was devastated, in other words, the Hebrew words are huthedia, which is devastated and empty. So when you break it down, and I have plenty of books to break down words, this is the third person singular, and it was done on purpose. So the earth was devastated by the Lord on purpose. Well, that got me thinking, well, what was before the devastation? So short of hanging on the gap theory, I just found that extremely interesting that the earth was something before verse 2, that it had to be devastated and empty. So, short of spending about a half hour right there talking about the gap theory, we'll move on to verse 2. It is just food for thought. Yes, Jim.
That's heavy.
Well, it is, and believe me, I labored over this going, I don't want to turn this into a gap theory study because it's all subjective, it's all speculative. And we could spend the rest of our lives talking about verse 2, between verses 1 and 2. I just found that because it's stated devastated and destroyed, I'm going, wait a minute, there's a difference between the two. The flood destroyed all living things, except for those that lived in the water, right?
Yeah.
But it didn't devastate it. It wiped out life. What we're having here in verse 1, it says, the Lord lays the earth waste, devastates it, and twists its surface, and scatters its inhabitants. I mean, we're talking about a worldwide shakeup here, right? I mean, I don't know how you saw this as your earth Christians or whatever. I always envisioned this as the Lord grabbing the earth by both hands and just shaking it, going, come on, man. And just, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, done.
Microphone, John.
It looks like he took great pains to include everybody
Yeah,
in detailing with the people, the priest, the servant, the master, the maid, the mistress, buyer, seller, lender, borrower, creditor, debtor. So he
exactly.
took great pains to describe each and every class of people or each and every section of the population.
Certainly.
So he wasn't leaving anybody out. He wanted to make sure that everybody knew exactly what.
Yeah, thus this is a worldwide scene, not just a local scene. Although Isaiah may be seeing it from his perspective, he is seeing a vision or being told, or however this is communicated to him, and which I also find interesting that Isaiah was able to write these things down for our learning and our benefit, but Daniel was told to shut up his vision. And I'm thinking that Daniel saw the amplified version of what Isaiah is talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know, but you know what I'm saying? It's like Daniel was told, okay, shut these things up. It's not for now. This is for later. Because I'm thinking that Daniel saw John's vision and just didn't know what to do with it. But in case, like I said, that's a whole different ballgame. So when we go to verse 2 and it says, and the people will be like priests, servants like his master, and so on, that's like everybody's the same here. There is no hierarchy. You're all going to get it, kind of thing. But as we read on, we're going to find out there's tribulation believers here. There are tribulation believers alive during this time of this great shaking, this twisting, this devastation of the earth. Because the earth will be completely laid waste and completely plundered, for the Lord has spoken this word. In other words, this is a done deal. Nobody's changing this, right? And the earth is an all-inclusive. Because the Hebrew word there is eretz, which is heaven and earth, right? Is eretz is earth. The earth, yeah, done.
And then he goes right back to the view of the world, and the earth mourneth and fadeth away.
Right.
He's given us both views, heaven and earth. Of this, both views of this devastation.
Yeah, and it's very important that heaven and earth are spoken of, because he's going to judge those beings in heaven also, as we get later on into the chapter. And verse 4 says, earth dries up, crumbles away, the mainland dries out and crumbles away. The exalted of the people of the earth dwindle. In other words, there's mass devastation going on. The earth is also defiled by its inhabitants. Very important verse. For they violated laws, altered statutes, and broke the everlasting covenant. Well, we all know that we couldn't keep the 10 Commandments, so we violated laws, right? Altered statutes and broke the everlasting covenant. Now, we're talking to non-believers here, right? Although we have broken laws, we have altered statutes, we have done these things, but the everlasting covenant, we'll talk about that in a second. Verse 6 says, therefore a curse devours the earth, and those who live on it suffer for their guilt. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth decrease in number, and few people are left. Now in some versions of the Bible, it says, therefore the curse devours the earth. Well, when I read some versions, I'm going, if it says the curse, what is the curse? What is it? I couldn't find anything. So I rest with a curse, whatever the curse it was or is going to be, I don't know. I couldn't come across anything that would define the curse. So I'll be silent where I'm silent. Yeah, Tommy.
Yeah, Chuck speaks about this in Luke, he uses the scripture, Luke 21, verse 36, how this is actually scary because look what it says. Watch therefore and pray always that you may be counted worthy to escape all these things that will come to pass and to stand before the Son of Man. We're going to have to be worthy of things like that, brother. And, you know, that's why we got the importance of watching and seeing the signs of the times, you know what I mean? To be ready, like if it's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think if you want to call it our making ready, being worthy or whatever, is we're found sinless in Christ. And if you just left it there, you would do nothing, right? You would do nothing. But I think we're called to do something, not for our salvation, right? But like watchmen, warning, telling, whatever, and yet we're going to suffer ridicule or whatever. But it's still, I think, our responsibility to spread this word about Jesus Christ. And when you get into studies like this, is to be emphatic about these things really going to happen, really coming to pass, and to tell people. So the King James Version of verse 6 says, therefore hath the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men left. Where the New American Standard says the earth decreases in number, doesn't carry the same impact as King James says, and they are burned. Now, burned could be a whole lot of different things. Don't know. But you remember, God promised Noah never to flood the earth again. But he didn't talk anything about not burning it. All right? Flood and burn. So burn, and few men are left. Which, unless those days were shortened, remember that verse? Because I don't remember the chapter and verse right now. Unless those days be shortened, there will be no flesh that survived. None. So God promised not to flood the earth again, but fire, I don't know. So I think we've established it's the Lord doing the work. Yeah, Troy, what's up? You got to turn your mic on.
Oops.
There you go.
Basically what you're talking about is we're living that right now. It could be nuclear war and we're going to burn up. Basically is what you're saying in that chapter.
It could be something like that.
Yeah,
Sure, it could be.
Yeah.
Your sound is cutting out, Troy.
Okay. Anyways, it could be that what Putin's trying to do, it could burn us up through nuclear. Let's talk about. All right, I'm just bringing that out there because it's all coming together.
Sure,
All right, thank you.
sure. If we keep messing with the atmosphere, maybe the sun burns us up. Who knows, right? So I don't know. That's just it. There's just certain things I couldn't find out or whatever. But so, and when I say we have the people of this planet have defiled the earth, correct? And violated its laws and altered its statutes, and we have broken his everlasting covenant. Now, I'll get into covenants in a second, but to kind of go back to the burning of the earth, let's say, that could be the curse. Who knows? But I remember to this day, we were told about nuclear winter, correct? All these bombs hitting and we're going to have nuclear winter and all that stuff. Well, I remember a time a little bit before I was born, we were doing above ground testing. So was China. So was Russia. Did we have a nuclear winter? No. So as devastating as a nuclear bomb is, and they're probably more, powerful today, it did not cause a nuclear winter. And we were popping these things off a lot. So take that for what it's worth. I keep believing that I've been lied to for 65 years. What's the truth? Yeah, tell me. Your mic.
Remember when we were kids, we used to duck under our desk when the sirens used to go on, and and the Cold Wars went on for such a long time. Just the threat of annihilation had us, in our tippy toes all the time, And talking about the curse in Malachi 4:6, it says, "And he turned the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers, lest I come and strike the earth with a curse." The same thing in Zechariah 14:12. So, I mean, the Lord repeats this over and over. So we are forewarned. So thank God for that.
Yeah. I often wondered what ducking under a desk was going to do. Except skin your knees. But that's those lies were perpetuated so that we could spend millions and billions on our military. I don't know. I don't want to get into that. But I do want to get into laws and statutes. Definition of terms. A law versus a statute. The law and statute both refer to certain laws that have been made and implemented in a society for some kind of discipline, rules, and regulations to be followed by a community or society or nation as a whole. Law and statute are different from each other, as a law refers to some common rules made and followed by the society for a long time, which are still being followed. These are not necessarily written, whereas statute refers to laws which have been passed as bills by the legislature of a country or have been written down and are consulted for use. It's almost like we have our Constitution, which is our basis of law, right? We base everything off our Constitution, and we make laws based on that, right? So the Constitution would be a statute, an established thing. Laws are made all the time. Some laws are stupid, some laws are good, but in any case, so I was thinking, how have we defiled the earth? How have we defiled the earth? And then, I started laughing, so stop laughing. We have defiled the earth. We pollute our skies, our water. We devastate the land with chemicals and putrefy the seas. We have ruined this planet, or we're attempting to. So, with all that said, we have, say, broken statutes like this, or foundations that the Lord has established. And oftentimes I think of this and I'm going, well, God knows we're sinners, right? Why is he so upset? He knows we're sinners and we're weak and desperately wicked. He ain't talking to us. He's not talking to us. He's talking to the people that do this, what you might say, transgress it on purpose. Those who willfully and wantonly thumb their noses at God and do as they please. That's who he's talking to. You want to ruin what I have created? You want to change laws? You want to change statutes? I don't think so. Right? I don't think I'm going to let that happen. The earth is also defiled. How do you defile the earth in a biblical context? Anybody? How do you defile the earth? I found this one kind of interesting. I'll give you a Jim, go ahead.
I was thinking of the defilement by cutting down all the trees and, you know, stuff like that that messes with the environment.
Sure. What up, Don?
You get defiled and defile the earth.
Say it again.
You get defiled and you defile the earth.
Tommy.
Just a little light.
I think, okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, like we could defile it because a lot of times we try to manipulate what God has already created and we try to conform it to what we want. And that's how we defile a lot of times, even with the animals as they mix them and do things, and even with food and we try to manipulate it. And sometimes we cause more harm than good.
Certainly. Jim.
Yeah, I'm thinking the HARP system and stuff like that, where they're controlling the weather and moving things around, changing environments and changing dry lands to wetlands, wetlands to dry, etc.
CERN and the like, yeah. I got a couple of examples for you. Numbers 35, verse 33, it says, "So you shall not pollute the land in which you are, for blood pollutes the land, and no expiation can be made for the land for the blood that is shed on it, except by the blood of him who shed it."
WW what?
This is murdering, right? This is murdering. So you pollute the land by murder. You remember back when Cain killed Abel? Where's your brother Abel? His blood is crying from the earth, right? It was polluted. He polluted the land. In Jeremiah chapter 3, verses 1 and 2 says, "They say, if a man put away his wife and she go from him and become another man, she shall return unto her again, question mark. Shall not the land be greatly polluted? But thou hast played the harlot with many lovers, yet return again to me, saith the Lord. Lift up thine eyes unto the high places, see where thou hast not been lean with, in the ways that thou sat for them as the Arabian in the wilderness, and thou hast polluted the land with thy whoredoms and with thy wickedness." So by deed and action, we can pollute the land. Just the things we do and the things we could carry out and do, like murders, and pollute the land. Tommy, you got some?
Yeah, a lot of times we think that like when we build a dam or we build something to benefit man, we cause so much damage. Like I forgot the name of the dam in China, where there's so much weight of water over that land that is causing earthquakes to 5, 6 pointers, because the pressure that it wasn't meant for that water to cover that particular land. But yet man is stubborn in his ways that he thinks that like, I'm going to defile God, just like the imbeciles that made the Titanic, and they said that God himself could not destroy the ship or sink the ship. We get so prideful that we think that we can do anything, and yet sometimes we don't work things out how it should be and put God up front and let God, if God wanted them to do it, it would happen. But man always distorts the truth, distorts creation itself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's called the Three Gorges Dam, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the Aswan Dam, when it was built, ruined the whole delta of Egypt. So they got tired of the flooding, but they didn't take into account that these natural floods were for their benefit. Kind of like Mississippi flood,
Yep.
right?
What about the topsoil?
That's what you use to rub up baseballs. What will we do without that? In any case. All right. We're gonna just touch on the everlasting covenant and then we'll take a break. The everlasting covenant. Remember, you had the covenant with Noah, right? The Noahic covenant. You had the Davidic covenant and all these covenants. There's lots of covenants. But the everlasting covenant states, I will always be your God and the God of your descendants after you, and I will establish my covenant between me and you and your offspring after you throughout their generations for an everlasting covenant to be God to you and to your offspring after you. Now that was the covenant that God had with Abraham. We get to come under this covenant because why? We're grafted in, right? We are grafted in. We're those Gentiles that are grafted in. We come under this covenant. So when you take into consideration the specifics of what a covenant is, you have to conclude that it's not just an agreement between two parties. It is in effect a binding contract and has consequences. If one of the two parties of the covenant doesn't hold up his end of the contract, humankind, he is subject to damages for violating the agreement. When it comes to a covenant between mankind and the Lord, it is mankind who is the one that doesn't hold up his end of the covenant. You have to realize that the Lord doesn't need anything from us. Mankind is completely dependent on the Lord for everything, including the breath that we breathe in order to live. So the covenant made with Abraham was a promise that God's not going to break, right? Ain't going to break it. We can strain it, but he ain't going to break his end of it. So he says, I will always be your God and the God of your descendants after you. I think that's a huge and wonderful covenant. But the people on the planet at that time violated this everlasting covenant. They basically thumbed their nose at the Creator God and said, don't want you. Leave me alone. All right, any comments before we take a break? All right, Jim, the timer is yours. I must find a restroom quickly.
All right. Timer starting.
Hi, Brother James.
Hey, how you doing, Tommy?
Okay, I'm over here in the parking lot in Montebello looking at you guys.
Well, thank you for the email, letting us know what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr.
Yeah, it's just one of those long processes that, they call you in, and, you have to sign over your life, your blood, everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Firstborn and say goodbye to your lastborn.
Yes. Well, I told her my firstborn already left. I got no control. So you can't have that.
Yeah, how can you control something you don't have control of? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Harper is also Uber driving today.
Oh, is he? Poor brother.
Yeah.
I feel his pain.
You and he are sure.
Not only that, I know his pain.
Yeah.
When I got sort of my voice back, I sound a lot better.
Yeah, it does sound a lot better.
Yeah.
For sure. We have McGill for a short time this morning.
How's he doing?
He's doing good.
Has he shared about his aunt?
No, not yet.
Okay, I'll wait till he shares it because I don't know if he want me to say anything.
Yeah, let's hold up.
Mhm.
That's wise.
Yeah,
No beans spilled here.
yeah. Now, a lot of times, sometimes because he's been asking me questions about, how before my mother-in-law passed away, how how she was and stuff like that. So this way he could ask the questions when he takes his aunt to the doctor. Hopefully he can take her because
Yeah.
they become so how you say what's the word I'm looking for? Not violent, but
COVID.
confrontational. They don't want to do nothing. If
Oh,
their minds made up, they're not gonna comply at all.
stubborn people.
Stubborn. There you go. Stubborn as a stubborn Jew.
We're just dumb sheep.
Mulehead.
hmm
Yeah, when it comes
Hi,
to
Troy.
How you doing there, Tony?
Good, brother. Good. A lot better. A lot better than I was before.
I know that sore throat. You got that from Easter the Passover, didn't you?
I think so, brother. I think you're right because I was kind of not cold that day. It was a cold morning,
Mm-hmm.
and I think sometimes I forget I'm not a spring chicken anymore.
Yep. No, your
Go ahead.
problem is you're 17 years old, but your old man is an old man. So
Yeah.
that you in your spirit, you're 16-year-old permanently.
Yes.
Yeah. But you can't do the things you used to do.
yep.
Your body says, no, no way.
I remember, Steve, when I had my heart attack in '99. I woke up after they put a stent in my arteries, and I got up and they told me to walk around for a while, right? And I was surrounded with 80, 90-year-old guys, right? I said, what the heck I'm doing here?
Yeah, exactly.
And I go, I'm barely in my 50s. I'm barely in my 50s.
Yep.
Well, because you are what you eat.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
That
And
cholesterol will do it.
yes.
I
So they
lived
had to-
I lived on Carl Jr. for about 4 years, and then
Oh.
I lost my gallbladder because of it. That
Wow.
was that only because it's across the street, so you don't have to. You don't
It was
even have to.
convenient. It was
Yeah,
convenient for you.
exactly, and it's good. Yep,
hmm
yeah, but it killed my part of my body. So
Yeah, he'll do that.
yep.
You'd be surprised the chemicals they put in our food.
Oh, I know, but it tastes really
That's why you
good.
don't eat at McDonald's. They don't put just chemicals in their food.
Yeah, I don't know what they
That's
eat.
bad news there.
Yeah,
They put chemicals. They put chemicals, but you won't taste the chemicals.
yeah,
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah,
no,
I'm telling you.
plant stuff is not getting more meat. They're starting to get plant-based
yeah,
vegetables made out of plants.
yeah,
And that's the new thing is coming right now. Everybody's pushing that.
yeah.
See, they
They are.
can do a lot of things. As I've been in the food industry for a long time. The problem is, it's the expiration dates, right? Like if we were to make what they call basic bread has a good no more than a month shelf life. You know, but it's not very eye appealing after 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah,
But
Agreed.
if they were to make stuff that and people would know that it's not going to last that long, they would buy it because for the product that it has in it, it has good quality, good ingredients and stuff like that. But the thing is, the makers of everything, they want the shelf life to last. Where it's
Preservative.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you remember we went to Israel and they had fresh bread every day.
Yes,
And
yes.
When you get ready to leave, throw it out and throw it away, and make
Yeah.
new in the morning.
Those little baguette.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was delicious.
Oh boy.
Don, Winnie, go ahead, Don.
You remember the 25-year-old Twinkie?
Twinkies.
Still on the phone.
Yeah,
They were called
you
the
can eat
nuclear
it right
Twinkies.
now. You bought it when you were in high school. Yeah, it's still good.
You know,
Preservatives. It's probably what do they call it? When they kill somebody and they put it in a jar and steady it. What's that called?
Alcohol.
Yeah, that's
Formaldehyde.
what's in that Twinkies is formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde, yeah.
you know, you're talking about the expiration dates, and while I'm sitting here, my daughters are going through my apartment, and every canned good that was out of date, gone.
All
Everything,
right.
they're checking all that stuff, medicine, everything.
Wow. Medicine, yeah, it's really dangerous.
Stop.
Yeah.
Medicine, I mean, if it's liquid, that's different, but if it's a pill and it's enclosed, it's good for 10 years at least.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
It's like honey. It has no expiration date because honey is honey, and you set it on the shelf and you can last it, and 10 years later you can eat it still.
I had 6 years of peanut butter. I got one now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
good. Come on.
If you've ever gotten sick on bad food, you pay attention to
Oh, yeah.
expiration dates.
Yeah, I did. Tuna killed.
Oh,
Actually,
tuna's
no,
bad.
mayonnaise killed me.
Yeah, mayonnaise will do it. Lots
Yeah.
of
Oh, real fast, yeah.
Yeah, we just went through our pantry about 2 weeks ago and threw away all kinds of stuff that was dated almost 3 years out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
I
good.
I stuff in my bedroom closet in containers for food for backup.
Mhm.
2014.
Wow.
There's
was all-
Tommy on the road again.
Canned goods and crackers and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Road again. Yeah, honey, the only food that doesn't spoil.
Hey, you guys say you threw away mayonnaise?
Yes.
Hey, that's Homer Simpson's secret sauce. What are you talking about?
I thought it was Hostess Twinkies was what he loved because that doesn't have a shelf life. The plate on Homer Simpson, he liked the Twinkies.
Sorry, I'm having trouble connecting to the internet. It looks like you router and echo device, so try restarting them. Unplug both of them, then plug the router back in. Wait 30 seconds. Once the router is back on and connected to the plug in the echo device.
I'm
John's
hearing something, but I don't know what it is.
got direct orders from your computer to cease and desist. With food. Do not play with my scratch pad. Well, we have 16 seconds, so I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone.
All right.
Hey guys, I gotta go. So I'll see you guys later.
All
All
right.
right, Tony.
God bless you, Tom.
Okay,
Shalom.
Bye-bye.
take care.
All right, muting all. All right, Dave, go ahead and unmute. You got it.
All right. The center section, what I call the center section of this study, I'll read it, but I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time in it because I think you get it. In fact, I know you get it. Starting with verse 7. It says, the new wine mourns, the vine decays, all the joyful hearted sigh. The joy of tambourine ceases, the noise of revelers stops. The joy of the harp ceases. They do not drink wine with song. Intoxicating drink is bitter to those that drink it. The city of chaos is broken down. Every house is shut up so that no one may enter. There is an outcry in the streets concerning the wine. All joy turns to gloom. The joy of the earth is banished. Desolation is left in the city, and the gate is battered to ruins. For so it will be in the midst of the earth among the peoples as the shaking of an olive tree, as the gleanings when the grape harvest is over. They raise their voices. They shout for joy. They cry out from the west concerning the majesty of the Lord. And this is where I think this is why you have believers at this time. They're seeing all this stuff come down and they're going, it's here. It's here. And they're praising God, right? All this horrible stuff that's been going on, and now final judgment is hitting. And true believers of that time are raising their voice and shouting for joy. Verse 15, therefore, glorify the Lord in the east, the name of the Lord of God of Israel in the coastlands of the sea. From the ends of the earth, we hear songs, glory to the righteous one. And then Isaiah says, but I say, I'm finished. I am finished. Woe to me. And I'm going, is this like out of place? He doesn't see it the same way. Isaiah is seeing it as, oh, this is crazy devastation. He's seeing, and it's affecting him. And I went, okay. I'm finished. I'm finished. A lot of versions might say, woe is me, or misery to me, misery to me. Because he sees this is it. It's over. The treacherous deal treacherously, and the treacherous deal very treacherously. And then you get to verse 17, it says, terror and pit and snare confront you, you inhabitant of the earth. Then it will be that the one who flees the sound of terror will fall into the pit, and the one who climbs out of the pit will be caught into a snare. These are people running scared. And they're running scared like they're out of their mind. They're out of their mind, running scared and falling right into another trap. These are people that do not know God or have no want or desire for him. And they're seeing the judgment come down, and they're just running in an all-out panic. For the windows above are open, and the foundation of the earth shake. Verse 19 says, the earth is broken apart. The earth is split through. The earth is shaken violently. And this is where I say, when I was growing up, shaken violently is like the Lord grabbing the earth and just shaking it. Well, my gosh, people. The earth trembles like a heavy drinker and sways like a hut, for its wrongdoing is heavy upon it, and it will fall, never to rise again. And that's what I call the center section. You have all these people, if we go back to the first part of the chapter, that are now all the same. You're all in the same boat. This judgment's coming down on it. Whoever's on this planet at that time, there is no distinction of peoples. You're all going to go through what's about to come. And here we are. Any case, so we're going to now kind of hone in on the last three verses, because it's talking about something a little bit different. Verse 21 says, so it will happen on that day. On that day is important. That the Lord will punish the rebellious angels of heaven on high, and the kings of the earth on earth. Well, isn't that interesting? The Lord will punish the rebellious angels of heaven on high, or the angels of the heights, right? Kind of thing. These are now the judgment is here for the angels and those rulers on earth. They will be gathered together like prisoners in the dungeon, and will be confined in prison, and after many days they will be punished. The moon will be ashamed, and the sun will be put to shame, for the Lord of armies will reign on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem, and his glory will be before his elders. Now think about this. When the Lord comes, the brightness of his coming is going to destroy the Antichrist and all these people, and they're going to be thrown into the pit, right? The brightness of his coming is almost like the moon and the sun going, whoa, okay, we don't compare here. Right? It's almost like if you wanted to put an emotion on the sun and the moon, it's like shameful. It's like, oh, we don't even come close to this kind of glory. The glorious return of our Lord will be putting the sun and the moon to shame. So verses 21 through 23, a little bit of research done on this. This is the judgment of the super mundane, as they call it in this research I was doing. and final establishment of God's kingdom. This is it. This is going to wrap it all up. What is the supramundane judgment? Well, I had to go look. To define it, transcending the mundane is spiritual or celestial. Right? Spiritual or celestial. Upon the destruction of the world, there is no supervene. I don't even know how to pronounce that word. Anyway, a visitation of those who have been especially instrumental in producing the great wickedness that has brought the world to an end. The most guilty ones are classified under two heads. They consist of the host of the high ones that are on high, literally the host of the height in the height. These are the angels that are fallen angels, and they're about to be judged. All of them. And the kings of the earth, upon the earth, that these are to be gathered together in the pit and shut up in prison, and finally, after a long imprisonment, punished. Then the visible reign of the Lord of hosts is to be established in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem. Right? And he is to rule in the presence of his ancients in glory. Who are his ancients? Lots of complication here. About that time in connection with the series of the events just related. So the Lord shall punish the host of the high ones. It is generally allowed that these high ones, set in contrast as they are with the kings of the earth, must belong to the class of the supermundane intelligences or spiritual beings of a high order. Spiritual beings of high order. Some have inclined to identify them as the patron saints of the nation, but patron saints don't do evil, right? You find that in Daniel chapter 10, but those patron saints are among the elect of unfallen angels. They protect nations and do not lead them into sin or wickedness. They have no need to be visited and will certainly not be shut up in prison with the wicked kings of the earth. So the spirits spoken of here must belong to the class of the fallen angels. They must be included among those principalities and powers of whom Paul speaks of in Ephesians chapter 6, I think verse 12, whom he calls the rulers of darkness of this world, and to whom he ascribes spiritual wickedness in high places. These are those supermundane. He also says, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. So the punishment of such spirits perhaps shadows forth in the 82nd Psalm. You could read that on your own, but I have it here. And it's only, I think, 6 or 8 verses long. But I wanted to just Jude verse 6 real quick. And the angels who did not keep their positions of authority, but abandoned their proper dwelling, these he kept in darkness, bound with everlasting chains for the judgment on that great day. So there's some angels we have never seen, have never tainted the earth, but they're going to be judged on the last day. They're done. They've been wrapped up in chains for who knows how long. Psalm 82 is a psalm of Asaph. It says, God presides in the great assembly. He renders judgment among the gods. How long will you defend the unjust and show partiality to the wicked? Defend the weak and the fatherless. Uphold the cause of the poor and oppressed. Rescue the weak and the needy. Deliver them from the hand of the wicked. The gods know nothing. They understand nothing. They walk about in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are shaken. I said you are gods. You are all sons of the Most High, but you will die like mere mortals. You will fall like every other ruler. Rise up, O God, judge the earth, for all the nations are your inheritance. So these are just a few of those things that I found. I mean, there's so many more. We know what kings of the earth are. Those are the people that have influence and authority over peoples on the planet. These are the people that broke laws and statutes. These are the people that kept people oppressed. These are the people that did not help the orphan or the widow. These are the people that couldn't care less about God's creation. These are the people that thumb their noses on how God, there is no God. And these are the people that basically broke every law, statute, and covenant. They don't care. These are the I don't care. Yeah, Don.
Yeah, those are the people who killed the Christians too.
Yeah.
Who rallied against God.
Right. I mean, I often say, you know, we're not immune. We're not immune to heartache and hard times and all that. But you know what? We have Jesus Christ, and without him, we would be just like everybody else. Just like everybody else. But when I was going through this chapter, and we're done, just so you know, but just going through this was, again, I see that Isaiah was able to write all this down. And I wonder what he saw and how devastating it was to him to see it. And then Daniel was shown, and it made him physically ill, but he was told to shut it up. What did he see? And then we obviously have John's revelation. So we have been forewarned, right? So being forewarned means we're forearmed. We should be ready. We should be ready to tell others this judgment's coming. And it's not coming because God is a mean old God. It's coming because mankind is so doggone corrupt. And he will not let it go on forever. You have such oppression of people, you know, justice almost dictates that this judgment comes. So in any case, any comments?
Yeah, he'll put up with us for so long, and then that's it. You know, then God gets upset, and then we will suffer.
Sure.
Should we not turn to him, we will suffer.
Concur. You know, it's one of those, I know we relate to anybody that's had kids. You tell them, and it's like, you know, I'm not going to let this poor behavior go on. I am going to interrupt it, and I'm going to correct it, or you're going to feel the pain, right? So when there's consequences to your actions, we all did it as parents. Well, why would we expect anything less? But yeah, Troy.
Yeah, he's a just God. And, he loves us so much, and what we see now in this world, you know, the corruption, like Putin genocide over in Ukrainian and all this. Look at China killing his people, starving them, and all this. And he's only going to take so much. That's why we can see it right now. The tribulations. We are at the end times. I could see it, and we better be prepared because he will come in a blink of the eye, and it's going to be over with. And we have to be judged. So I just look at this. I try to talk to everybody that I can and let them know that it's here. I mean, I heard it from my grandparents and all that. Oh, we're coming to, you know, times and all this stuff, but there's too much prophecy. Look at Israel became a nation in 1947. All these prophecies are all coming true. Everything is out there. So I see it we're at the time. I don't know when, but it's here soon, and we better be ready.
Yeah, for me and in my upbringing, the starting of the stopwatch, let's say, for that last 7 years, if we ever hear, which I don't think we're going to hear, but let's just say we hear that the Jews are rebuilding the temple.
Mhm.
Start your stopwatch. You got 7 years.
Mhm.
That's your last 7 years. So to me, that is a big deal, thing.
I hear that they are ready. Like, they got the plans, they got the site, they got everything ready to do it. So it's just doing it.
That's part of one of my. I think it's in May. I do an Israel update. That's where I'm taking it.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about the temple.
All right.
And I know Tommy had done one earlier that I didn't necessarily hear. So I don't know what he touched on. But if to me, honestly, it doesn't matter. I know it's going to happen, but to me, it doesn't matter where it's built, because there is a theory out there that the Temple Mount is not the Temple Mount, that it was actually some 600 meters to the south, built basically around the Ophel of the city of David. Who knows? Who cares? All I know is it's going to be rebuilt. You know, so and I don't want to give away the update, but man, it is. The reason I'm bringing that up is because there's so much talk about it right now. There is a lot of chatter about the third temple. Yep, you got all the implements ready, built, blueprints, everything. Where the cameras are going to go so they can see the Antichrist when he claims to be God and everything.
Yeah.
And you have red heifers. Well, red heifers are only usable for 3 years.
Yeah.
And then you got to have new red heifers and new red heifers and new red heifers and all that stuff. But whatever the case may be, the chatter on this is crazy, just crazy. We'll never see the third temple.
May I
We
ask
won't see it built, and we won't see it destroyed because we ain't gonna be here.
What is a red heifer? I don't understand. I don't know what you're
Well,
talking
it was
about.
for purification of a site. You had to have a red heifer and a sacrifice of a red heifer. It had to be perfect, unblemished, for sanctification of a holy site.
Yeah.
So all those kind of implements are in place besides the menorah and the showbread table, all that stuff. But
And
they want religion back in Israel.
And
right?
red heifer was pretty unusual because they were there when they rebuilt the temple, but then 7 years later they disappeared everywhere. And
I think
Texas,
they got.
But now in Texas, a whole bunch of rabbis are keeping it, controlling it in Texas, somewhere in Texas, and they got plenty of red heifers like crazy right now. So we're ready to do that too.
Yeah, I didn't remember if it was Texas or Kansas.
Yeah, no, it's Texas. And a whole bunch of rabbis, they're cowboys. They take care of them.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Texas. It's Texas. Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know where in Texas.
There's so much speculation as to what's going on right now in preparation for the building of the temple.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of speculation as to what's true and what's not.
Right. Yeah. Well, Israel gets attacked. 10 nations attack Israel and they're wiped out. And then Putin tries to help them and he gets wiped out too. And then the Antichrist shows up and makes peace from the earth and says, you can have your temporal. And it's right there he started. So it's interesting to see what's happening because Putin is ready to he's going to have to go and forget about Ukraine. He's going to have to go and defend the Arab nations because Israel's attacking them. And it's going to be soon, real soon.
Yeah. They mentioned Syria too. Is Syria one of these big countries that's going to
Syria, missile misfires supposed to hit Jerusalem. Instead, it hits Tel Aviv. I mean, Damascus, and it gets wiped out completely. There's nothing left of it. And this is the oldest town in the world, Damascus. So it's gonna only cockroaches live there when it happens. Yeah.
Cockroaches can live anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I like cockroaches. They're interesting. Their skin is outside. It's like you're well protected.
Yeah, they breathe underneath, is what I hear.
Yeah,
Underneath, they breathe. Yeah, and they're
yeah,
clean. Believe it or not, they said that they're very clean. They're
yeah.
very cleanly.
Well, I don't know, but years ago, I watched Johnny Carson, and a girl was eating cockroaches, and it's a delicacy. Don't worry about it. Look, it's like chicken. He wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I think we see the Ezekiel war, but we're not going to see Armageddon.
No.
And who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
A lot of what's going on today, when it actually is uncovered and unveiled, is going to surprise you.
Yeah, everyone is going to be surprised.
Yeah.
The real.
There's a lot of things I wish that the powers that be would just get on with it and get it done.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's a lot of timing. It's always is. You know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so,
wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah, exactly. And so
we get anxious and
perfect.
Want things to happen.
Yeah, we're impatient. That's right.
Correct.
Yep.
All right, Jimmy, I'm going to close this out in prayer and let everybody get on with their day.
All righty.
All right. So first, I'm going to pray what's in our chat box. Joe's asking for prayer for one tractor use to clear the land being purchased, and the family to draw close to the Lord, which should be a prayer that we all have for our family. So we pray for Joe and the things going on in his life. Tommy Perez and the things going on in his life, all the little beagle things that he has to do. Yeah, they're complicated and they can be a headache, to say the least. And for Mr. Harper is out there driving around in his Uber car, keep him safe and keep the his patrons safe with him. You know, there's crazy people on the road. I swear, if I didn't have to drive anymore, I wouldn't. But it is what it is. So keep him safe. And for Henry and his food ministry today, I'm trying to remember all these things that people got going on. But he's a blessing to those that he's servicing, things like that. For Miguel and whatever's going on with his car that's getting fixed, that guide him through this day. Hopefully it doesn't cost a whole lot, arm and leg kind of thing. But appreciate having him show up today, and Tommy show up today. For Don and his wife, I can't wait to meet you all. But for Don and his wife, that you keep them keeping on. It's, as Paul would say, press on, press on, press on. And it's what we do. We do the next thing for Troy and for the Vertigo and the things that are going on in his head. You can fix those things, Lord. We can ask that you just fix that. And for Steve, I know Steve for a long, long time, and I think you named him improperly. It should be Tony the Tiger. And just keeps on going and going and going, which is quite a blessing to see. And for Jim, as you're healing him and giving him at least a 90 degree on the knee, let's give him a 180 so he can start kicking butt. But Lord, you know our bodies. You know what's going on in my life and things like that too. So we just cast all of our cares up to you. We thank you for the rain last night, for those of us that got rain, and a nice clean day, air, breezy, wonderful spring day.